Good evening, everyone. I'm Keith Reesar with Calenzen. Calenzen, the tool that helps you fix your broken calendars. We help you do that by finding any appointments in your calendar that have a phone number associated with it and changing those appointments so that you can always click to dial. That's what we'll show tonight. 3 things tonight. 1, who needs Calenzen? 2, show an example of some of the problems with calendar invites that we actually fix. And 3, shift gears a little bit, look at the back end, show how we can magically make it so that all of your calendars are always click to dial. Let's get this demo started. So here's my calendar, or at least some calendar that's a wreck. Hopefully yours doesn't look all this bad, but use this as an example. If you have a calendar like this, all these different appointments, there's what, maybe a dozen people asking for your time. And if your calendar is anything like mine, of those dozen people, most of these are phone calls. And I assume most of these phone calls from a dozen different people, there's probably about a dozen cutesy little ways that someone is using to specify a phone number and a meeting code or hiding the URL for that WebEx somewhere deep in the invitation. So as you're hopping from meeting to meeting and trying to get into things, every single one you try and connect to, you can't click to dial. Every one you connect to, you're trying to find that information, maybe it's missing information, you arrive late, you arrive frustrated. So if this happens to you at all, then you're the ideal customer for something like Calenzen. Calenzen fixes these broken calendars. So what do I mean by a broken calendar? Wait for it, get my back up to work. I'll bring up my phone, and inside my calendar app, I've got a few appointments I want to highlight for you. First appointment here, this is a broken appointment. If you can read it, this is a wall of numbers. How many of you have gotten a calendar invite that looks like this? Somehow you're supposed to type in that PIN number, starts 456. Who can remember that, right? Where's the courtesy as far as someone who's hosting this meeting? Calenzen fixes that by rewriting those numbers. Another problem I see day in and day out is data issues. Here we see a calendar invite, someone put in the phone number, and if you look closely, they dropped a digit. I guarantee this has happened to most of you, and the challenge is no one is going to notice this until you try and connect into the meeting. And at that point, there's that frantic email and texting, and everyone joins 10 minutes late. Calenzen fixes if you have data errors. Last one I've got for you right here. This is someone who hosted the meeting. They tried to be courteous. They tried to implement click to dial. And if you haven't seen this before, this is a phone number connected with some commas or semicolons so that you can click to it and instantly connect into the conference with the meeting code and the password. The problem with this is that they put it inside the notes rather than inside of the location. So when you click on this with my phone, which is running Outlook on iPhone, it actually recognizes it. It'll click to dial that phone number. We'll get right into our meeting. But that fails for Apple Calendar. That fails for Google Calendar. That's because every one of these different applications has their own standard for how they interpret some kind of a click to dial. There's no universal way to do this. And that means when you've got that big important meeting coming up, if you're not using something like Calenzen, you will arrive late, you will arrive frustrated because you just can't find the information at your fingertips to connect in right away. Here's an example of an appointment that actually was processed by Calenzen. And if we jump into the notes for this, what Calenzen added was that gray box near the top. So we've extracted the phone numbers, the screen sharing URLs, the meeting IDs, and put it at the top of the message, at the top of the meeting invite in a way that you can easily see. You can click to dial that. You can easily read the groupings of numbers there if you're typing it into a regular old desk phone. We do this no matter what conferencing system someone is using, no matter what phone, no matter what app they're using. We do that for you so you have that consistent experience as someone who's forced to dial into meetings all day long. So you may be asking yourself, geez, this is great. How's that work? What do I have to do? Well, as a customer of Calenzen, we don't ask very much at all, really. When you sign up, we're going to ask you your phone, iPhone, Android. We're going to ask what calendar app you use, and that's it. We need to know that because, as I said, every app interprets these things differently because there's no standard. What we've done at Calenzen is we have looked at every permutation of Google Apps, Office 365, Exchange, iPhone, Android, all the common calendar apps that are used on those phones. And we found out exactly which permutations support which kind of formatting so that you can always have that click to dial. That's the only thing you need to do. Everything else happens in the back end. When a new invitation is sent to you, we work directly with Google. We work directly with Microsoft. We don't hold on to your meeting invitation. And when that comes in the background, we apply that change. And when you open the phone next to dial into that meeting, it's already changed. The upside for that is nothing for you to install. The upside of that is there's no problems with corporate IT. The downside is I got nothing to demo for you because it's all kind of magic on the background. But I've got a solution for that. So I've made it so that you can visualize how this actually works. Moving to my next screen here. This is an example of running Calenzen in Apple Calendar. So what I'll do is I'm going to load up, I'm going to paste some information in the invite here, and I'm going to launch Calenzen. This is how Calenzen would actually work in the back end. So when a new invite comes into your inbox, it arrives in your calendar, we immediately start checking that invitation against several dozen different tokenizers that we've written. These tokenizers are looking for specific pieces of information. In this case, this Zoom meeting, it's keying off of identifying that Zoom, find the URL, find the phone number, find the meeting. Once it's gotten all of that information, it sends it to our Apple Calendar processor and then sends it directly to Google, which then changes the meeting invitation and prepends that header on top of there. You'll notice that header's a little different than the screenshot of my phone. That's because Apple Calendar supports things differently than Microsoft Outlook. We've done the testing, we know exactly what works. Two more quick examples here before I close. I'll paste some things in here and get this one running. Second set of invites that we're running through Calenzen, this one is a WebEx meeting. What I want to show with this meeting is that even though there's all that text inside of there, you will not see a phone number. That's okay with missing data. We have a partnership with WebEx and a number of other conferencing providers. So as long as we have certain key pieces of information, in this case the URL, we're able to work with WebEx, verify that it's an active meeting, find the phone number, find the meeting ID, send it through that same processing engine that we used previously so that it writes it in the Apple Calendar format, save it up to Google, and prepend on the top of the meeting invitation. That's what it looks like on your phone, so you can click to dial. You'll notice it's a different vendor, but it looks exactly the same, so you can depend on how things are actually going to work. Let me reload this here. The last example I have, it's not clearly using a specific conference vendor, is it? This is just some phone number and a bridge. That's okay, we've got that taken care of as well. What we do at Calenzen is we have generic handlers that in this case it's looking for a phone number, it's looking for a PIN number on the same line, and when we ultimately find it, oh, I forgot to start it. When we ultimately find it, it's going to insert that into the header the same as we saw with the previous two examples. So give that a moment to end up catching up. So regardless of what kind of conferencing provider you use, as a consumer, someone who gets invited to these meetings, when you open up the app on your phone, your normal app, whether it's Apple Calendar, Outlook, Google Calendar, whatever it is, it always ends up looking identical and the same. So you know exactly how you're ultimately going to dial into it. Here we've keyed on, we found the phone number, we found the PIN number, it updated that. If we look inside our app itself, we would see that that app also was updated, and if we click on it, it would be a click to dial inside of there. So you don't have to mess with any of this stuff in the background, it just magically works on top of your phone. So hopefully someone in the audience is saying, wow, that's awesome. I'd love to try that. Well, thanks for asking. Calenzen is live, and you can try it. It's available on a freemium model, so if your calendar is a little emptier, don't pay us a cent. If you've got a little bit more going on, $10 a year. That's nothing. You don't even need to expense that much, right? But special deal for everyone here who made it through the snow to come down here to Pantages Theater. If you use the promo code MD31, although it's got to be lowercase, not uppercase. If you use that promo code, you'll get it for $5 for a year. No one would bother expensing $5 for a year of frustration-free conference calling, right? Give it up for Calenzen.